This is The Focus Group with business insiders Tim Bennett and John Nash.
I fought worse monsters than you for years in Hollywood. I know how to win the hard way.
We're all business, except when we're not.
Don't f with me, fellas! This ain't my first time at the rodeo.
You always make... Oh, look at my shirt today, John. I was wondering whether this was going to be too much, but I think it looks okay. What do you think?
Looks good.
Hey, welcome to The Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. We're all business except when we're not, and John and I will soon be in Hollywood because as things are going, there's not going to be many people left that haven't diddled anybody. Have you diddled anyone?
We're all going to Hollywood. Anybody who hasn't abused anybody's going to Hollywood. I've always wanted to be a director.
We can do a lot.
Action.
We can be all set.
And scene. There you go. We're already set, right?
They always blame the gays, yet look what's going on. So it's the the Focus Group, as I said. Be sure to follow along with us all during the week on all our social media, which is branded Focus Group Radio. That's Facebook and the Twitter. And
I love when you do that. That comes from an executive.
IGLTA and Madrid.
That comes from an executive who got up and spoke, and he was very careful about how he said.
I thought it was a joke.
No, but it was all during the conference, it was like
Twitter?
the Twitter.
The Twitter?
Twitter.
Find us on Twitter.
Twitter.
So find us on those platforms. And then, of course, Focus Group. I like that you just bought that.
Yeah.
And focusgroupradio.com, which also has all of our multiple platforms that you can listen to us through audio or watch us on video. And hey, thank you for everybody who filled out our listener survey. It's still up if you want to go to focusgroupradio.com. Is there a link there?
No. You have to.
So go to Facebook.
Yeah, or text yourself the letters, or text the letters FG to the number 25827. All the system does is kick you back. Oh, there, John, throw it up for us.
Right, so you could continue to fill it out. It'll stay up through Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, and I echo Tim. Thank you to everybody who took the time to take the survey. It was designed to be short and sweet, and we got a lot of great data and information. And I think the thing that I appreciate from everybody that's listening and watching the most is the suggestions for segments. I mean, we had actually classified it down so you could pick, but I was intrigued by what was selected, and I think that's going to be a great guide for us moving into the new year.
Well, people want more news, and the other thing that surprised me was we've gained certainly new audience since we left SiriusXM. We have about half of you, or a little more than half, that still listen through the audio on Saturdays outside. Saturday is still our biggest day, surprisingly.
Which I think you identify, Tim, since we're both marketing guys, we call that a behavioral.
Well,
because that's from our Saturday.
And people are used to it, and it's easier to take the audio and download it. And we know that we're right in the middle of the day at work, or based on time zones, might be difficult for you to watch us live. We appreciate everybody who does watch us live, but John and I were pleased to find that there's about a 50-50 representation of those of you who watched our video broadcast, and then the people who still continue to consume audio, and then, of course, all our new listeners at Derek and Romaine, because we're now on their feed on the weekends. So
yeah, they put us up Saturdays, I think, right?
Saturdays,
which is like we used to be over at Sirius. So
how was your week, Mr. Nash? You came down to visit me.
Okay. Let's start first with the visit to Rehoboth Beach. So I've never been. Bob and I have never been to Rehoboth. Tim was gracious enough. Tim and Richard were gracious enough to have us down to their beautiful home. And Tim's a handyman. When we get to the property, it's a cute house. It's in great shape, and you walked us around and said, "Here's everything you did," and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's days and days and days of work."
You're being nice. I painted a lot. I could do that. A lot of the handyman work, though, I have to thank Brian from AdMark 360. And
he reshingled the shed in the back.
He showed me how to do it,
and the outdoor shower.
The outdoor shower. Matt did the fixtures. We did painting. I mean, there's a lot.
These guys did a terrific job. Well, let's also, when you throw out how many contractor bags of
270.
Okay, so we're Tim.
Grey Gardens.
Tim's house has a big deck on the back of the house, and there's shagbark hickories and some pine trees that are they're taller than the house. And we're sitting out there. It's a beautiful day, and Tim goes, when we got the house, there was how many inches of dead leaves?
About 5 inches of just muck.
All across the deck. So that had to all be cleaned and power washed. And
it was a nightmare.
But the inside, so Bob and I have often talked about repainting the inside of our house upstate, and we talked to a contractor, and after being at your house, we've scrapped that because Tim was very pragmatic. He said, here's what you do. You buy these cheap drop claws. It's all in the prep. If you take the time to tape and patiently prep, then you paint, you're done with the room. And so we're going to do that with the house.
You
now.
do one room a weekend.
But you guys were fantastic hosts. I got to see Tim's dogs, Spike and Trixie, and I love Spike and Trixie. And Spike in general loves being shown a lot of affection.
He didn't want you guys to leave. When you were leaving, he was going to get in the car with you.
Yeah,
and
he
kept looking back as you were leaving and beeping and waving goodbye. He loves when.
But so we went down Friday. We got to stop at the famous Christiana Mall, the land of tax-free shopping in Delaware. We get to Tim and Richard's house. We had a wonderful time, and on Saturday they took us to see something called the Sea Witch. Now I threw a panel in here, and I threw some pictures up. We think that guy with the big glasses, the big head, was one of the funniest costumes.
Yeah,
so that was just
great.
a plastic head, but we think it also bears a strong resemblance to a former colleague of ours from OutQ. The minute I saw it, I was like, hey, look who's going down the street.
I tried to find that online. Where could you buy those? They must be for sale somewhere.
No, your local paper down there called the Del Mar Beach something Gazette, whatever, was running the pictures. And then, so this
But I mean, can you buy those?
Oh, I don't know. That's a great one because I think you should be able to buy different heads. The kid next to him, so the Sea Witch is a big festival that ends the season down in Rehoboth, and there's a big children's parade, a costume parade, and then the main parade, and then on Sunday, I think it was rained out, it was supposed to be a pet parade, but I love this costume this kid did.
Was he in a jar?
So if you're listening on the podcast, there's a kid took a costume and he made it look like his head is being carried in a jar in front of him. So I thought that was really clever how he did that. Okay. And then the Sea Witch attracted about 100,000 people. We got to walk on the boardwalk down. There was a gorgeous day. In fact, I got sunburned on my scalp. It's still peeling.
100,000 for that town is a lot because of residents. There's only about 1,100.
Yeah, so
when you bring in 100,000 people, it turns into a big.
Yeah, and so we went to an arcade on the boardwalk. We got to play skeet ball.
Skee ball, which Richard won again.
He won again, but you won the toss, the clown toss, yeah. And then what the machines do as you're playing these games is they give out these tickets. So we had reams of these tickets, and the routine there, which I thought was, Tim had told me this before, but you find a young kid and you give him the tickets. And Tim goes, and he jokingly said to Bob, give him the ticket, give this little boy the tickets, but he has to get 4,000 more tickets to get an eraser. Or something like that. Like they had toys in the arcade. And
45,000.
They had a Star Wars, like a Star Wars Stormtrooper doll or something was like 40,000 tickets or some insane thing. But we had an amazing time, met a lot of your friends, had some great dinners. You cooked an amazing dinner on Saturday night, and then Sunday came, and we got up, watched the news, and everybody kind of headed home because it was rainy. On the way home, we went to Costco. Had an easy trip home, except it was pouring the whole way.
A big weekend.
But and then this week has been just busy. You and I have been doing the survey. We're working with our partners as we, this is in marketing and advertising land. This last 2 months of the year is pretty critical. A lot of things happen. Budgetary talks, decisions are made. Yeah, so it's been a good week so far, and I'm a little bit achy and sore too.
Why?
Well, I've recommitted to my old gym schedule.
Oh, for God's sakes!
And if you've been out of it for a bit, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that muscle.
Well, there you go. So you're going to look like Jean-Claude Van Damme by time spring hits.
Jean-Claude Van Damme at 80. Yeah.
We want to, and thanks to our crew in the booth, we've got John and Garrett and Allie. They're there with us, joining us as always. Did you guys go out for Halloween?
Allie and I went to a party at Anthony's house. Garrett went to a magic show, right, Garrett?
No, Halloween was yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was the weekend. So Halloween, no, I didn't. We were at work.
I will say this about Halloween. It's kind of like when I was younger, I loved it, and then I just don't really pay much attention to it.
We had over 100 kids.
Well, you have a
little light.
Tim lives in a neighborhood, and you give out the
big candy.
You give out the big
which
candy.
I've got to stop because since Brian's moved away, it's I'm the only one, and it costs a fortune. On the show today, after we go through our usual banter, we've got an author, Kim Scott, joining us. She wrote a book called Radical Candor, Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity.
Okay, there we go.
Looks orangish. Looks like a Tiguan color.
Well, what did you call? There's a name for this type of diagram.
Well, it's like a SWOT analysis.
Yeah, so you had these things all mean something in the different quadrants, right? Yeah, there you go.
But she talks about how it's possible to be a human and care, but also be able to get results out of your employees. So
Be a manager and a boss, yeah.
Have her joining us. She's got a very unique background.
I thought so.
Yeah,
especially some of the government work she did. Was that what you're reading in the bio?
Well, yeah. I was wondering whether she might be a Russian spy.
Well, yeah.
She might be a Russian spy. I don't know. We'll have to ask her. So she did a lot of work in the old Soviet Union. We know how that went.
Old Soviet Union.
So, Mr. Nash,
Yeah.
what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
I have two. One's quick. They're both kind of quick. I added a second one this morning after reading something that made me almost cry. I mean, I was practically crying on the couch last night when I read it, but the first one did not make me cry. I thought this was an interesting story. A story about medical science, let's put it that way. So the headline read, "Man enjoys life after losing 3-foot-long penis." And I love the first.
Is that Allie laughing?
Yes, Allie. Yeah. Here's the first sentence of the article. He was way too big for his britches. Like who writes that, right? Okay. A Kenyan man with a 3-foot penis and 11-pound testicles, 11 pounds, is finally getting the chance to live a normal life now that his massive package has been surgically reduced, reports said. Horace Opio, known as Florence, first noticed a cyst on his genitals back in 2006 and had it removed by a doctor. But it came back with a vengeance a year later, bringing the length of his penis to almost a meter long, which would be 3 feet. The 20-year-old was forced to drop out of school and didn't have the money to pay for surgery. He tried to use herbal remedies to help his condition, but they didn't work. He started to believe he'd been cursed. And so the condition actually is caused by a mosquito biting and injecting larvae. So he was bit by a mosquito.
Full of bug eggs?
And it was just the larvae caused an allergic reaction in the body, and what happens is it causes swelling, and it affects the body's ability to drain certain areas. A neighbor heard the story, put his story on social media, it went viral, and it garnered the attention of a local governor's wife who ordered a doctor to inspect him. The doctor inspected it, realized they could fix the problem. They did a surgery. When he woke up, I was surprised that my body was so light. All the heaviness is gone, and I'm now swimming, and now he plans to go back to school.
Does he still have a penis?
Fully functional, and so his scrotum.
What did they do? Cut it off, or?
Yeah, they had to remove.
Are there any pictures?
No. The pictures you saw were the pictures, and I was wondering the same thing. And by the way, I Googled that, and I only saw the surgeon who did the operation and a picture of him in those loose pants.
I'm still trying to figure out what they did. Did they just remove the tumor?
Yeah, because the skin had stretched from the drainage issue caused by the larvae.
How do you let something get that big?
He didn't. He hit when the problem first was this swelling. He had that removed, but then the larvae was still in the system, and it came back with a vengeance. So his scrotum is still functional, and he hopes to start a family. But for now, he said his first priority is the education he denied himself when this problem started. Which I say yes to that, right? But yeah.
How you doing?
It wasn't like he was a ladies' man.
Straight face.
I practiced that one actually. This one I can't do with a straight face though. The next one. No, because here's the headline: Woman in apparent blackface costume at California Staples stuns customers.
Blackface.
Yes. So
where is she?
She's in Staples. So I can't.
Oh, stop! No.
I read this yesterday.
Wait a minute.
Customers at a Staples store in Northern California were upset after seeing a worker's face painted black as part of a Halloween costume.
She coal miner, maybe?
She claimed as people approached her that she was getting a charcoal face thing, and she was a spa attendee. Someone else said no, she's a Sharpie. It turns out that she, in fact, was supposed to be a Sharpie pen. And all I'm going to say is that's the whole story, because people were totally confused. They'd go up to the register and they'd say, "You do know there's a woman back in that section and she looks like she's doing blackface."
If
no.
She had a cap on her head, maybe, right? What's on her head?
One woman said, "To be honest, I thought I was on some kind of a show, like ABC's What Would You Do Next? You know, if you were presented with a problem." And they would confront the woman, and she's like, "No, I'm a Napa Fire Spa guest, and I'm getting a charcoal facial."
Oh, okay.
Or someone would approach her, and she says, "No, I'm a Sharpie."
I did see somebody with that charcoal on their face from a spa thing because that's a thing now apparently at the spas. But
Well, here, the woman was also reportedly a contract worker from Market Source, there to promote Hewlett-Packard items. And not a Staples employee. So she was kind of like when you go to Whole Foods and there's or Costco and there's the samplers. But she, if you're watching on the audio, or sorry, if you're not watching, she's wearing a white shirt. She's got some kind of rag on her head, but she's got a
It doesn't
black
look like
face.
she's a Sharpie. That what does she have on her head? I could see her saying, I went to the spa.
Yeah.
But I can't even see her eyes. That's something. Well, you're not allowed to do any ethnic costume. You can't be an Eskimo. You can't be anything. You're not even allowed to say Eskimo anymore.
And I'll wrap up. I'll wrap up my caught my eye with the woman in a parent blackface costume. Yeah. So that was. I'm speechless because I don't know how you don't make that connection when you look in the mirror. When you put black only on. I mean, the Hollywood used to call it blackface for a reason, right? There's a famous scene that's been never shown on TV, but it's on the DVD. It's Bob will kill me for this. It's either Holiday Inn or White Christmas. It's the one where they put on these Holiday Inn. It's Holiday Inn. And there's a scene where Bing Crosby does this thing about Abraham Lincoln, and he comes out in blackface, and they're all in blackface. And I said, "Oh my God, Bob!" He said, "That's what Hollywood. That's what they did."
Yeah.
But not now, So that was what caught my eye. Man with a 3-foot penis had it surgically removed, and a woman dressed as a Sharpie upsets people because she's doing blackface at a Staples in Northern California.
We'll have to mark this caught my eye as probably being our most absurd 4 things.
Well, okay, now
Mine are equally as crazy. My headline that I saw that I added was "Drunk Clown Found Asleep in Stranger's Bedroom."
I heard it.
So, and I only do this because if you go up on the guy's face, so this guy dressed as a clown, he got into the wrong house on Saturday. Saturday night at 3 a.m., this teenager came home and found this guy in his bed. The guy was at the wrong house, got in the bed. So they called the cops. His name is Sean Barber, 43 years old. This is in Wilmington, Vermont. And they said he had the remnants of clown makeup on, and also he got charged with possession of cocaine.
So is that clown makeup or cocaine?
Well, that's what I was trying to figure. Is all that coke in his mustache, or is that his clown makeup? I guess it's a combination of both. That's the poor guy's mugshot.
I love the slight remains of the red nose at the end of his, like there's the glue or whatever.
So he's being held right now. He was being held at the Southern State Correctional Facility until he became sober. He faces charges of unlawful trespass and possession of cocaine.
Yeah, well, he'll get off on the unlawful trespass because that was a clear mistake. But the cocaine's a problem. That's going to be, yeah.
And then this other one, I couldn't. Well, here's the headline: Chinese restaurant gives discounts to women based on their breast size. So a G cup will get you 65% off, but the poor girls with an A cup only get 5%. So this is a restaurant in China. It's in a mall in the province of Zhejiang province.
I was going to say Shenzhou, pick a province, right?
The restaurant's name is called Trendy Shrimp.
Trendy Shrimp.
Trendy Shrimp. And you can see, so there's the front of the store, and then that little diagram there, it's an animated board that's trying to get women to come in, and essentially the translation is the larger your breast, the bigger the discount. And so they show the titted Chinese girls there and the different cup sizes. So if you're an A cup, you get 5% off.
I am.
And if you're
this outdoes the 3-foot penis and the blackface Sharpie.
If you're a D cup, if you're a D cup, you'll get 35%. So it goes through the whole thing.
Someone thought of this.
Yeah, and it says the headline. It also says the girls talk to you says the whole city's looking for breasts. Reads the placard, has these animated female characters, and then it says you get a price cut based on your bra size. It's been very successful. The restaurant says business has gone up 20% since they've done this. However, they did get some pushback from some people saying that they thought it was vulgar.
Now, did you have another panel that showed was there one in there that I remember looking at the deck. There it is. So
Right.
that's that other thing there. Is that the same thing that's happening
Yeah,
there?
so that's the other signage in there too. So it tell you, so if you're a G cup, you get 65% off or whatever, and it goes through the different breast sizes. And they said it's based upon judgment of the female staff at the restaurant. So that's how they measure. And it's based on the honor system. So you have to say I'm a B cup or whatever. The average discount, it comes in, as I figured it out, is about the average discount for the girls is what I called a B plus, about 20%. is the discount.
That's the average. Okay.
The average Chinese girl is somewhere between a B and C cup. That's coming in the store. So I was, but they said the girls have nothing to hide. And so I was wondering, here in the U.S., I pulled a few pictures of Dolly Parton and Aretha Franklin, wondering they'd probably get in for free. I mean,
Well, Aretha.
I mean, that's bigger than a G, I think.
One of those days, I think maybe in the near holiday time, I want Tim to pull up a video that he showed me that still makes me Toronto. I don't know how long ago it was. Yeah,
I tried looking for the still for that and I couldn't find it. But so I thought, what happens if you're a guy with breasts? Because there are men with breasts. I found a slide that had some men with breasts as well. And I thought, could you get a discount as well at the store? I don't know. There's Arnold Schwarzenegger and a few others. But poor Allie's making a face.
Yeah, Arnold would get a discount, and I don't know, boy, that's...
So then the restaurant owner said he probably thinks it's a matter of time before we see restaurants in Japan offering the same thing. Right now, there's a couple of restaurants in Japan that offer women discounts based on how high their high heels are. So the higher your heel, the bigger the discount you get.
Oh, my God.
They said earlier this week, the Huffington Post reported that another restaurant had come under fire for what people call discriminatory pricing. There's a place in Australia called Handsome Her Cafe, and there's an 18% surtax on men. They're calling it the gender pay gap on male customers to raise awareness of wage inequality with women. So they said a lot of restaurants are doing these things. It's like people used to complain when they had ladies' night at the bar, right?
Yep.
So then they weren't allowed to do that anymore.
So in the current climate that we find ourselves in, OMG, this would not fly, right?
Les États-Unis?
Oh, my God, no. I mean, every day someone else did this, someone else did that. And then you would throw it would be like throwing kerosene on a bonfire. Whoosh, you're going to have, the bigger your tits, the bigger the discount. Could you imagine the outrage? Well, the mock outrage, probably.
Listen, I know that a lot of people say they go on and on about our country and how we can be racist and we can be all these things. I've traveled through Asia.
This to them is just part of the day, right?
Part of the day. I remember being at a meeting and I asked my Japanese counterparts why they set the Koreans and the Chinese together who did not get along. You know what they told me?
Yeah, I remember the story.
They eat dog.
They eat dog.
So I was like, okay.
In fact,
that's how you're going to group them.
That story was that there was a ballroom you were in, and
they were essentially in the hallway.
And they had them outside the ballroom proper, facing the door,
looking in.
Looking in, yeah. So I remember the day we were coming back from Sonoma or something. If I'd been driving, I'd have driven off the road laughing because I couldn't believe that story.
They even set the Israelis with the Iraqis and the Iranians too, which also
and then winked about
Saudis.
It. And they winked.
I said, why are you putting the Israelis? The Canadians brought it up first, and
they're all in that part of the world.
Middle East. So our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Today's a big one. Today's a big business birthday. Timothy Donald Cook.
CEO.
Apple. Of Apple Inc., born on this day, November 1st, 1960. He's only 57 today. Looks a little older to me.
It's a hard job.
Is it?
I don't know. I think he looks good.
American business executive, industrial engineer, and developer. He's the CEO of Apple, took over the job, joined Apple in 1998 as a senior vice president. He was made chief executive in 2011. And in 2014, he became the very first chief executive of a Fortune 500 company that publicly identified as gay.
Yeah.
And he serves on a number of boards, including Nike and the NFL. He was born in Alabama, earned his degree at Auburn University, and then an MBA from Duke. He often talks about Alabama's backward stance to equal rights and human rights when he's down there. He gave a speech recently at a school where he did that. Before that, he worked at Compaq, the computer company. Did you know that?
I knew that. In fact, I think his claim to fame at Apple was his genius with sourcing, right?
Sourcing and
manufacturing.
Streamlining, yeah. And so he said in '98, Steve Jobs asked him to join Apple. And he said within 5 minutes of him meeting Jobs, he said he was going to throw caution into the wind and all logic and follow his intuition by joining Apple. He thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Boy, was he right about that.
To resurrect a great American company. So you're right. He came in as a senior VP of worldwide operations and reduced all kinds of costs along the way. after Jobs resigned, I forgot about this. He resigned and then was dead, days later.
Sadly, because of the, I think it was pancreatic cancer was the.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he actually, Tim Cook offered his liver, part of his liver,
If it could help him.
Jobs, because they had the same kind of rare blood type, and Jobs said absolutely not. I wouldn't do that for you. So
John the Booth's making it like, whoa, but hey, that's the thing about Jobs. He was pretty direct, right?
yeah, well, they said Jobs, they had formed a strong partnership, but they said, and under the leadership, things went from a very small company that was losing to $100 billion that it's worth today, and
That's cash. That's cash. That's not
right.
even, yeah.
They said since becoming CEO, Cook has focused on building a harmonious culture and weeding out people with disagreeable personalities and people that Jobs tolerated. They said Jobs would tolerate a lot of confusion, and so he thought he got the best work out of a lot of people being
Your rivals and
being all over the board. What time do you think he starts his day?
I think he gets up at 5 or 6 in the morning.
Sweetie.
4 in the morning?
Starts sending emails 4:30 a.m.
Wow.
He also holds Sunday night staff meetings by telephone to prepare for the week. Friends I know that worked at Apple all said it was crazy. So he said that he feels if you can get these three things right, you'd have a great company. It was a strategy focused on people and execution and preparation. So he said under their leadership, he also Apple has given a lot more to charity. He's a fitness enthusiast. He enjoys hiking, cycling like you do, and the gymnasium. It's a gymnasium, not just the gym.
That philanthropic thing is interesting because when Jobs ran Apple, it was not a philanthropic company. And it slowly, after Cook took over, they started actually developing that notion of giving back. But Jobs was not, he was fiercely against that on some levels.
They said he's very private, very solitary. He uses an off-campus fitness facility. Little is known about his private life. He was misdiagnosed with multiple sclerosis in '96.
Wow.
Which says made him think differently about the world. That's why he raises money now for MS.
Wow.
So here's what it was. He offered a portion of his liver to Jobs since they both had the rare blood type. And Jobs said, no, I'll never let you do that. He supported Obama, but he also supported Republicans. He had a fundraiser with Paul Ryan to try to get House members elected. But generally, he was a staunch Democrat.
But that's the game we talk about with corporate America. You got to be on both sides of the fence because you don't know who's going to win. It's a 50-50 proposition, right?
Right. He saw one of the quotes. You saw one of the quotes. He said, I'm proud to be gay. I consider it being one of my greatest gifts. But he also explained that while people were aware of his orientation, he felt that people should consider or should focus more on Apple's products rather than his personal life. He what's one other thing that I saw here that I thought was interesting? How much stock do you think he has
in the company?
Yeah,
I know that he was given a block of it. I don't know. I think it's a significant chunk, though.
Yeah, he says he has stock worth about $120 million. And then he has other options valued at $665 million.
That's what it was. Their options.
I think he could retire.
There was a point where he was. Steve Jobs did this too. Steve Jobs used to make like $1 a year or 10. I don't know what it was on paper. They also did this thing with Jobs where he would swap out the leased car he drove. Right? Remember that? I think he did that as a caught your eye once, right before the lease, because he didn't want to pay some California tag plate or something.
No, that's why they have all this money. Yeah. I have a friend of mine who works for a billionaire.
Yeah.
And last night took 3 chocolate bars for her. I said she can't buy 3 Hershey's bars. So I'd like to give them to her. So she's a billionaire. I'm not a billionaire. She's taking my Halloween
You're
candy.
running around buying chocolate
I'm running around buying
bars.
chocolate, and she's picking them up. It's like the Kennedys, never had a dime in their pocket. So that was their business birthday. So as many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of us here on the Focus Group. Thank you, everybody, for supporting Deep Discount. The best way to support us and to support Deep Discount is go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the shark logo there that you see here on the screen if you're watching the Deep Discount logo.
Garrett gets to say goodbye, and we always get to do the pirate.
Right, so if you go to Focus Group Radio, there's a Deep Discount logo there. Click on there and start going. Finding lots of different sort of finds. And this week, or for the whole month, I believe, it's a site-wide sale.
Yeah, I was thrilled about this, and our friends at Deep Discount sent us a note And they were like, hey guys, I hope you're having a great fall. And guess what? November site-wide sale, so have at it. Find anything you want.
So what did you pick?
I decided to not do movies this week.
I noticed that.
But I'm glad you noticed. And I thought instead I'd look at some other areas where you can get some great stuff on the site. And the first one is a book that I do want to pick up, and it's called Miss D and Me. For 10 years, a woman named Catherine Cermak was at Betty Davis's side, first as an employee and then as her closest friend. And in Miss D and Me, she tells the story of the great star's harrowing but inspiring final years, a story fans have been waiting decades for. So this is a book about Betty Davis, written by her former assistant, Catherine Cermak. They met many years ago, and Catherine had been an assistant for many people before that. She had worked with the princess, a French actress, Pierre Salinger, Buzz Aldrin, Motown founder Berry Gordy Jr., Patrick Kelly, an American designer. So she ended up with Betty Davis, and they became close friends, to the point where Betty Davis made her change her name. She had her name Catherine is spelled Kathryn. She had her put the Y in to make it unique. That kind of Catherine, yeah.
So I could do TYM.
Exactly. So Deep Discount has the book. If you're a Betty Davis fan, I urge you to pick it up.
Have you read it?
No, I'm dying to. I read a review of it, and the review was good. And I think it sheds light on a couple of interesting, because Betty Davis had children, and in later years, some of the kids actually had a different kind of take on her. The next thing I did was inspired by Bob. Now, Bob is a Pet Shop Boys fan, so am I, but Bob is like a super fan. Remember when he met them for the first time?
Yeah.
It was like AbFab. You can never have too many hats, gloves, and shoes. He froze like a deer in headlights.
Well, it was royalty.
And we were chatting away with him, like, we should have you on our show, blah, blah, blah.
And screw you, Sirius XM. We booked him. Remember, they stopped it?
Because of the talent department, yeah. So Bob has always made a point of buying the physical disc for every Pet Shop Boys release that they've done. And Deep Discount has a really cool collection of discs that the Pet Shop Boys have released, and it's a series called Further Listening. And what they've done is they've remastered each album, they've put on additional tracks, and then there's other material that's thrown onto the discs as well. That
So it could be like something from a live concert.
Exactly, yeah. So it's the original album as it came out, remastered, and then they add in this other stuff. So I just had John put up there the album. Yes, and it's from the Further Listening series, but it's a beautiful package. The box is like half. It's like a multi.
Bob, get it?
He's gotten most of their albums now from this collection, and they do sound. I mean, I was listening to the remastered version versus the one that was commercially released years ago. It sounds a little crisper, how when they remaster. So again, Deep Discount books, CDs. We talk about movies a lot because I'm obsessed with movies, but you can get a lot of stuff there. What'd you pick?
So I picked a movie that I think everyone should watch between now and Thanksgiving, or you can watch it after Christmas. But it's really it's called Home for the Holidays, and I've talked about it before. Movie came out in '95 as Holly Hunter, Robert Downey Jr., Claire Danes, has a great cast. It was directed by Jodie Foster.
That's the part that gets me.
Jodie Foster?
It's a Jodie Foster film, yeah.
It's got everything from the crazy aunt to the gay brother to the snobby brother-in-law, the parents that are still being parents and treating their kids like children. It's no Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving, which I love about it. As I said, it came out in '95. But the appeal of it really is a humane look at a family full of strangers, quite frankly, because it to me, it's somewhat uncomfortable to watch, but I enjoy it because this group gets together for the holidays that the parents want to so badly have go well. From how they remember them.
We all know this, right? Yeah.
Right? And everyone's coming in from all over, and everyone's got their own
baggage
and their own baggage, and it's funny, it's sad, but at the end of the day, I think it's just a great story.
So,
and I've always loved it, and I always watch it this time of year.
I'm putting an order together for Deep Discount. You
have to watch it.
This is on the list.
Have you watched it?
No, and you've recommended it before, and I have to watch it because I would love to add this as one of the canons of holiday films.
It is one of mine, that and A Great Gardens that I watched. But one of the funny facts about this was also loved by Siskel and Ebert. But the one thing is Robert Downey Jr. publicly admitted using heroin during the making of the film. And
Oh my God, I shouldn't laugh, but he's had an interesting journey, huh?
he is
Spot
so
on.
he plays the gay brother who has all kinds of other stuff going on, which I think he plays it brilliantly. I mean, all the acting I think is quite good, but it's a fun. It never really got huge play, but if it's one of those, if you've come from a dysfunctional family and who hasn't, it's a great holiday.
By the way, one cast member, Geraldine Chaplin,
Yep.
is that related to Charlie
I
Chaplin?
don't know. She plays the aunt, I believe.
Okay. And Anne Bancroft's in there.
Bancroft and
Claire Danes.
is-
No, it's a superb cast. And again, this has been put on the list. I'm getting this, and I'm excited to watch it because I like those offbeat holiday films that kind of define the
Well, you're not
holidays,
going to find, and I will say, I looked at the price of this. You're not going to find a better price anywhere because I checked some of the competitive sites, known online sites, and it was double the price of what it was here at
$5.91 at deep discount.
Yeah, you're not
And
going
it's
to beat
and
that
it's
anywhere.
a site-wide sale.
And you also get commentary, special commentary from Jodie Foster on the trailer and so forth. And then the new release this week is called Dark Tower.
Hey guys, is Dark Tower Stephen King?
Yes.
Yeah, Garrett's saying yeah. So it's
Stephen
a Stephen
King.
King thing. Okay,
And did you see it?
no, but it has Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba, who I like both actors. I don't know how this was received at the box. I think.
Well, I'm going to tell you how it was received.
How was it received?
I would think you'd like this, although this, for me,
It's more fantasy than science fiction, right?
it's an American science, fantasy, Western action horror film. Can I say that again?
You just crossed a
It's an
whole bunch of
American
genres there.
science, fantasy, Western action horror film. That's how it's been plugged everywhere. Tough time at the theater, but they
slog at the
said that it's
theater.
good acting by the two men, but sometimes the story might not have hooked up well. But I think it's interesting just for the fact that they put all those genres together.
Yeah.
But you know me with science. As soon as I see science, click.
Well, no. As soon as you see science fiction, click. You don't mind science.
I like
per
science,
se.
but if it's something science fiction, I'm.
All right, so we want you to support Deep Discount by visiting us at focusgroupradio.com, clicking on their logo, the Deep Discount logo. And Garrett,
Thanks, Deep Discount.
now that's a post-Halloween,
one.
full-throated. That's a Twix bar and a Snickers bar. That you get if you came to my house and said thanks, I'd dump that in the bag. Hey, stay with us. Coming up, we're going to be speaking with author Kim Scott about her new book called Radical Candor: Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host John Nash. We're all business except when we're not. And right now we're going to be business because we have author Kim Scott joining us, and she's written her latest book is called Radical Candor: Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity. And Kim is also CEO of Candor Inc. Out in California. She's also a CEO coach. And she earned her stripes as a highly successful leader at Google and then decamped at Apple, which, I mean, that could be a whole show in itself. Talk about going from the fire into the flame or the flame into the fire. And
Don't forget the FCC's in there too.
well, the FCC
and
there's
Russia's
Moscow.
in there too.
I thought you might have been a Russian spy, but we'll talk about that after we talk about Radical Candor. But so, Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Tons of fun stuff to talk about.
Well, in your book that just came out recently in the late spring, you talk about how in the workplace that one of the single biggest misunderstandings that holds managers back is thinking that you have to choose between being nice or being ineffective and being a jerk. And so I was wondering what is radical candor?
So radical radical candor is very simple. It's just about the ability to show that you care personally at the same time that you're willing to challenge somebody directly. And I think so many of us have this false dichotomy. We believe that we need to sort of show that we're a jerk in order to be a strong leader. That's just untrue. Early in my career, I'd started this software company, and I got an email with a article from the Times from like 10 different people. And the article was about how most people would rather have somebody, a boss, who is a total asshole than, I'm sorry, FCC, I know I'm probably not supposed to use that word.
You're clear.
Than somebody who's really nice but incompetent. And I thought, is this because they think I'm a jerk or because they think I'm incompetent? And which is worse? It wasn't really that clear to me. And this is a false dichotomy. This is not a choice we have to make. We can actually be both kind and compassionate and also challenge people to do the best work of their lives.
So, Kim, this is John. It's a pleasure to see you today. And let's just look at one of the words of the title of the book, candor. Candor, taken by itself, just means honesty, correct?
Yeah, but to me it implies something different.
Like brutal honesty. Usually people
like
use candor to say, oh, you're being like, and brutally honest. That's like a weird kind of shift. So radical candor, I think by putting radical before candor, you're basically emphasizing the important part of what you want to accomplish in this book, which is you can be truthful, you can be honest, but you could do it in a way that is constructive and actually kind, right?
Yes, that is fundamentally kind. To me, at least, candor implies, here's what I see, what do you see? And the problem very often is that if somebody says to you, I'm going to tell you the truth, it kind of implies like, I've got a pipeline to God, and you don't know beat from Shinola. I'll just beat myself out. and that's not a great way to start a conversation. So it is possible, actually, to share what you really think in a way that shows the other person you're also interested in hearing what they think. Telling them what you think is a gift in one of two ways. Either you're pointing out something that's actually a real problem and they need to fix it, or it's your thinking that's the problem and you're giving them an opportunity to show that you're wrong.
Well,
so either way, it's a gift.
Well, you talk about, or you explore in the book, how managing people is a very difficult thing. You could know your expertise in your line of business, but no one really teaches people necessarily how to have that human side of managing people. And in my own experience, I was just wondering what your thoughts were as to what some characteristics of great bosses would be that you've encountered.
Yeah, so some of the best bosses I've ever experienced are the people who care about me, not just as an employee or somebody who's going to do productive work, but as a human being. And it's not friendship. It's something very different than friendship, but it's people who are concerned with my growth, not just my growth on the job, but my growth as a human being. And usually a big part of that growth comes from letting me know when I've screwed up. So simple example of radical candor that I experienced early in my career, or not that early actually in my career, but early in my years at Google, I had to give a presentation to the founders and CEO of Google about how the AdSense business was doing. And I walked into the room, and there is Sergey Brin on elliptical trainer and toe shoes. And there's Eric Schmidt, like his head is so deep in his computer, it's like his brain has been plugged into it. And so like any normal person, I felt a little bit nervous. I didn't know how to get their attention. Luckily for me, the business that I was leading was on fire. And when I said how many new customers we had added, Eric's head pops up out of his computer and he says, what do you need? Do you need more engineers? Do you need more marketing dollars? So I'm feeling like the meeting went okay. In fact, I'm feeling like a genius. And so when I walked out of the room, I'm expecting a high five from my boss who.
Oh.
And she said to me, why don't you walk back to my office with me? And I realized, I screwed something up. And yeah, I'm sure I'm about to hear what it was. And Cheryl said to me, you said a lot in there. Were you aware of it? And I kind of blew her off. I made this brush off gesture with my hand, and I said, "Yeah, I know it's a verbal tick. It's no big deal, really."
It's a verbal
And
tick.
so I'm not listening. You know, we all have these verbal ticks. I've got a tiger by the tail. When business is growing like crazy, who really cares if I say That was my attitude. And Cheryl said to me, "I know a really good speech coach. Google would pay for it. Would you like an introduction?" And again, I kind of make this brush off gesture with my hand, and I said, "No, I'm busy. Didn't you hear about all these new customers?" I'm busy. I got stuff to do. And finally, Cheryl stops. She's realizing, she says, "I can see when you do that thing with your hand, I'm going to have to be a lot more direct with you. When you say every third word, it makes you sound stupid." Now she's got my full attention. Right?
Oh my gosh, this has happened right after the meeting you thought you knocked it out of the park on, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking I'm a genius, and now I'm being told I sound stupid. And some people, the agony and the ecstasy of these little meetings. And so some people would say it was mean of Cheryl, actually, to say that I sounded stupid. But in fact, it was the kindest thing she could have done for me at that moment in my career, because if she hadn't said it to me just that way, I would have kept blowing her off like this. And when I went to see the speech coach, I realized she was not exaggerating. I watched this video of myself, one of life's more painful experiences, which I'm having right now, by the way, as we're talking. Avoid it if you could possibly help it. And I literally did say every third word. And the weird thing about that was I had been giving presentations my entire career. I had raised millions of dollars for startups giving presentations. I thought I was really good at it, actually. And if she hadn't said it to me just that way, I wouldn't have learned what I learned that day. And that really got me thinking, why was it that nobody had told me about this problem? It was as though I had been walking through my whole career with spinach in my teeth, and nobody had had the common courtesy to tell me about it, right? And this happens all the time.
How did you fix that, though? You went to this speech coach, and did they just, what did they do?
I assume watching yourself is one of the biggest correctives for behavior. To watch yourself, like for half an hour, give a talk. I bet that's the first thing. You start your own feedback loop. Okay, I got to get rid of that. Is that part of how they did it, or?
Yeah, that was part of how they did it. They started to count them in presentations I would give and give. There's nothing like a good metric. And
wow.
It's interesting. The other thing they did was they helped me understand the psychology of it.
Yeah.
They said, you need to learn how to be comfortable with silence.
That's hard.
Yes.
That's
hard.
That's
That
hard.
is really hard.
And our duo, Tim is extremely comfortable with silence. I used to own 2 ad agencies. I'm not comfortable with silence.
Yeah.
You want to jump in, and you don't want the client to do too much thinking on their own. You want to move, right?
Right. Exactly.
Hey, Kim, that example is actually fascinating because the way your former boss escalated it for you was the door opener for you to accept the critique. So in your story you mentioned a couple times that she started with, "Do you know you do this? Do you know you?" And then finally she said, "I'm observing a literally a body behavior, like a gesture, a brush off." That speaks to me that she's a good manager. I do not possess that skill set myself. And would you say that she's a rarity, or was she more in line with other excellent bosses you've had experience with?
The interesting thing is that I talked to her about this, and it didn't come naturally to her either. I think that this was learned behavior. And my experience is that almost anyone who cares can learn this behavior, because we all have this instinct. And it's born, you probably had a parent who told you when you were just learning to speak, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a big problem for us, because now all of a sudden you're a manager and it's your job to say it. And undoing training that's been pounded into most of our heads since we learned to speak is really, really difficult. But anybody can learn to do it. And it's part of the reason why I wrote the book the way I did. And I came up with this very simple framework that you can keep in the back of your mind. It's you want to care personally. All of life's problems can be boiled down to a good 2x2 axis, right? So you want to care personally at the same time that you challenge directly. And when you can do both, that's radical candor. But let's think about what happens when we fail on one dimension or another. If you fail to show that you care personally when you're challenging someone directly, I call that obnoxious aggression. That's also known as the asshole quadrant, right? But the reason why I don't call it that is because don't write names in boxes on this framework. The way to use what I'm about to describe to you is like a compass for a conversation. Don't use it to judge yourself or to judge other people. Use it to guide a conversation in a good direction. And when you realize that you've fallen into obnoxious aggression, that's your moment to show a little compassion, right? Don't back off your challenge, because if you back off your challenge, then you're going to wind up in one of the two quadrants that are even worse. Either manipulative insincerity, and we all fall there. That's when we neither show we care nor challenge. And we all do this from time to time. This is the false apology. This is also like political behavior, backstabbing behavior. And so when you realize you've fallen into that quadrant, you need to move up on care personally and over on challenge directly. But the mistake that people make more often than any other, in my experience, is what I call ruinous empathy. And this is where we do worry, right? You are concerned about the other person's feelings, and so you don't tell them something that they need to know. And just a little bit of self-awareness and relational awareness can go a long way to helping you improve this, because it's hard. I struggle with it too.
You said men struggle with that with women more, right?
Yeah. So there's definitely a gender. I mean, it's the world is all about gender right now. And so here's the thoughts on gender vis-a-vis radical candor. I think very often when a man has a female employee, he tends to pull his punches when giving her feedback. He doesn't give her feedback that's quite as direct as the feedback he might give to his male employees. Not because he's some kind of misogynist jerk or anything like that, but because he's been taught since he was a little kid to be gentler with women. And so my advice to men who have female employees is just to man up, frankly. Just say it. Just don't be so afraid. The women on your team can take it, I promise you. So that's one gender dynamic. Another gender dynamic is when a woman is being radically candid, she's very often unjustly accused of obnoxious aggression. Only she's not called obnoxiously aggressive. She's called some other word that begins with a B.
It's so typical, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I don't have data on this, but I'm just going to assert that it's more painful to be called that than to be called an asshole. And so
I think that's okay on the spectrum. I'd agree.
Yeah, are you going to give me that? Yeah. And so very often it's tempting for women to back off their direct challenge because it hurts. It hurts when you're getting called this. And that's a big mistake because both ruinous empathy and manipulative insincerity are even worse than obnoxious aggression in terms of getting stuff done at work. So you can't back off your challenge. You've got to move up on the care personally dimension. Now, don't try to move too far up on the care personally dimension. I'm not talking about trying to be the angel in the office and bake cupcakes for everybody, because you're just going to wind up annoyed if you do that. But if a man has to say one sentence to show he cares personally, like, I can see you really care about this. Maybe you as a woman have to say 2 sentences, maybe 3. I can see you really care about this. I want to help you fix it. That's why I'm telling you this thing.
Oh, boy. Now, I have a couple or a question here. I started 2 different ad agencies, and I was fixated on being an entrepreneur and a creative director and the guy that saw the clients. And so I will freely admit that I am not the best manager of people, period. It's I managed by telepathy. I assumed that my employees knew what I was thinking or knew what my
your mind.
Exactly, my emotional state, whatever. But in Radical Candor, you suggest that everyone, no matter how successful they appear on the outside, it needs to improve when it comes to managing people. So when you look at entrepreneurs or small business owners who can credit their success by the drive and the personality, how do they adapt some of your teachings and thoughts to be actually really make themselves better at managing, hopefully, their growing organization?
I think one of the first and most important things that I talk to people about when I'm coaching them is to realize that this is actually part of your job. I remember early in my career, I was kind of like you. I thought I was, my real job was about strategy, was about building a product. I was doing this software startup, was about raising money. That was my real job. And I found one day I walked into the office and I had to come up with a new pricing strategy. And I was just trying to get from the elevator to my desk. And one guy runs up to me and he's like, found he has a medical problem, like he's missing an organ that he didn't know he was missing. It was like, and he was completely freaked out about it. So I have to have a cup of tea with him and calm him down. And then I walk by this other guy, and his kid has just won the #1 math award for all of Manhattan. So now I have to celebrate this with him. And then I'm walking to my desk. I'm almost there, and I pass by this other person on the team whose daughter is in the intensive care unit. And I know I can't just walk by or say, how's it going? Like, I know how it's going. His life is a living hell. And so I spend a few minutes talking and sort of trying to persuade him just to leave the office. And even if he doesn't need to go to the hospital, maybe he could take a swim or a nap or something and take care of himself. And so by the time I sit down at my desk, first of all, an hour and a half has passed and I'm supposed to be doing something else. And second of all, even if I did have time, I'm so emotionally drained, I can't think about pricing.
Kim, it's a perfect scenario. So how did you figure that out?
So I called up my coach and I said, what am I? Am I a CEO or a babysitter? And my coach, her name is Leslie Koch. She's awesome. And she pounded the desk and she said, this is not babysitting. This is called management, and it is your job. And just that simple reframing really made me realize that taking that time was part of my job. It wasn't something that I was supposed to do on the side. It was core to building an effective organization that was going to build a product. I couldn't do it all myself. If you're a leader, the whole idea is that you're helping create leverage for other people.
So she shifted your thinking from viewing it as an intrusion to what you had planned as a productive morning to saying, no, it's not the intrusion. That is your job. What you were doing was the touch points with those employees was making their day better and thus more productive. And that's what you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, it's not all you're supposed to be doing. I do believe that you still want to keep your fingers in the work. You want to keep your hands dirty. But it was a big part of what I was doing.
We're speaking with Kim Scott and about her latest book, Radical Candor. And the more we're talking to you, the more I could see that you're actually quite a character. and
Tim likes that.
Well, I could see where you and I would have gotten along well at work. I do have a couple of questions though on your bio, which John and I kind of laughed about. How did you open a diamond cutting factory?
Oh my God! Yeah,
Moscow.
Yeah.
It was my first management job. So I was living in Moscow and
for what?
I was living in Moscow. Initially, I went over there as to do research on swords into plowshares. So I was very interested I studied arms control and the Cold War, and then the Cold War ended my senior year in college. My work was finished.
Cold War is over.
Yeah, I'm done. Look what a good job I did.
Let's take down that wall.
Yeah, exactly. So I spent a little time investigating this swords into plowshares idea, the idea of these military factories that were converting to civilian production. And I wound up working for an American investment firm that was investing in these companies, and they created what they had called the Soviet Companies Fund, and that was really interesting until the coup happened, and then there was no more Soviet Union, and so I was looking for another job. And like all things in life, this happened through a friend of a friend. A friend of a friend said, "Oh, I've got this. My brother is going."
You like diamonds? You like diamonds? Boy, I got a job for you.
I had no interest at all in diamonds, actually. I think it was part of the reason why I got the job. And so they sent me over there my job was to hire 10 of the best diamond cutters. It turns out that Russia has a quarter of all the world's diamonds.
Wow.
And
know that.
so my job, yeah, who knew? My job was to hire these diamond cutters. And I thought, how hard can this be? These guys make rubles. Rubles are worth nothing. I've got dollars. I've got a lot of them. I pay them. That's how I hire them, right? And so these guys turned out they didn't just take the job. They wanted not money, but a picnic. So I'm like, okay, well, you want a picnic? I can do a picnic too. So I took them out. We're eating these hunks of meat and these tart apples, and we're drinking a bottle of vodka, passing it around, you know. And eventually it turns out what they really wanted was to know that if things went to hell in Russia, I would help them get their families out. And it was
Oh my God.
That was what they wanted to know.
Wow.
And it was revelation. I realized that the thing I could do that the government could not do was to give a damn.
Yeah.
To actually care about these guys and their lives and their families personally. And all of a sudden from that moment, management seemed to me a lot more interesting than it had before. I think I grew up, I studied Russian literature, and my attitude towards business was that it was sort of like the organization man. You know, it was this command and control, these terrible systems, bureaucracy. Like none of that seemed very interesting. And all of a sudden I realized, no, it's about something totally different. It's a very human thing. That the excitement that we feel collaborating is one of life's great pleasures. And we may as well collaborate to do great work and to love the work we do. And when we're really lucky, to love the people we're working with.
Well, before we let you go, we have a call that came in for you. So we have Danny in Connecticut. Danny, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tim. It's always a pleasure.
Hi. Do you have a question for Kim?
Yes. Tim, Kim, how do we deal with, I'm having a really hard time dealing with somebody that's actually 2 or 3 times a week, I seem to fall into this role of caretaker. Like, they actually are continuously sick, or they have tragedies at home, and it becomes kind of non-productive.
Yeah, it's really hard because you probably care about this person. You don't want to look like a heartless jerk.
Well,
maybe they've worn you down. But you probably don't want to look like a heartless jerk. The person is sick.
No,
you probably don't want to get sued.
I try not to.
Yeah. And so what can you do? How, when someone is sick all the time or has some kind of personal problem that makes it hard for them to get their work done, how do you deal with it? The truth is that you're not doing them any favors to let them get away with it forever. I think it can be a real act of compassion when you see somebody has a temporary problem to cover for them. Okay. But at a certain point, enough is enough. And like, I don't have an absolute rule of where that certain point is, but you can cover for them for a couple of weeks, sometimes a couple of months. But
no, this is years.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Time's up.
So time's up. Time's up. It's now time for you to say, here's the work you have to get done. And if you can't get this work done, I need to hire someone who can and help you find a job that'll better fit your personal needs. Because this job and what you need are no longer compatible.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I didn't think about actually assisting them in finding a new position.
No, and Danny, I agree with you. That's one on me. Kim, that was that's compassionate, but you're also getting the problem out the door. Not in a bad way, but you're lining them up with something better. Hey, Danny, thanks for the call.
You're welcome.
Good luck, Danny. It's hard.
Yeah, and yes, good luck, because that's a hard one. Yeah, Kim, I think you're right about so many things, especially this gift of being able to manage well and to recognize that it is a cool thing, because collaboration is how we get some of the best stuff done when we work with others in teams or individually. I want to thank you for joining us today, and I want to remind our listeners that the book we've been discussing is by Kim Scott. She could, Tim, we could have all worked with Kim.
I know,
right?
we have to have her back because there's a million things we didn't even get to.
And the book is
I'd love
called.
to come back.
You're more than welcome to. The book is called Radical Candor. It's by Kim Scott. It's available where all fine books are sold. or electronically download it onto your Kindle. I like the hardback, though. By the way, I wanted to let you know the size of this book is...
Digestible.
Would you say this is New York to Hawaii or New York to Los Angeles?
In New York to L.A. You're not going to read on your way to Hawaii.
You're going to read a lot of this. There's a lot of great stuff in here. So, hey, Kim, thank you for joining us today. It's the Focus Group.
Thank
We're going to
you.
be right back after a quick break with a quick shop talk that kind of dovetails in what we were talking about with Kim. So stay with us.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Now back to the Focus Group with Tim and John.
Because he has a lot of chutzpah.
An entertaining look at the world of business.
Heads are spinning, heads are spinning.
Listen, laugh, and learn.
I am not gay. I never have been gay.
That's perverse.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Thanks again to Kim Scott for joining us in her book, Radical Candor. You can go to radicalcandor.com and learn more about Kim. And
Does she have
also
stuff
get
up
the
there
book.
like tips and things?
I
or-
believe so, and then you can probably find her site from there as well. So, but she was a good guest. I'm
You
glad
should send Danny the book.
she joined us.
If Danny, if you're still watching, letters at focusgroupradio.com. I'll send you a copy
Send
of
you
the
the
book.
book. So our shop talk this week, as John says, it somewhat dovetails with the conversation we were having. It's called 5 Common Career Mistakes to Avoid at All Costs. And these are you as a person, so things that you should avoid as an employee. So do you want to lead us off,
I'll kick
John,
it off with
number one?
number one is aiming too low. Whether it's salary, title, or type of company, people are too intimidated by interviewers, scared of asking what they want at every stage of the interview process, and suffer from imposter syndrome. I like the imposter syndrome. So it's the psychology of why this is. It's a direct result of indoctrination, authoritative education, the idea of you don't want to ask for things. But when it comes to job, career, and job search, these are actually expected questions. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
You know, and if you frame it like salary conversations are never easy, in my opinion, or should they be? What do you think?
Well, no, they're never easy, but it all goes around the confidence and having the confidence to sell yourself. I'm guilty of it. You and I are always guilty of it.
Yeah.
You be too humble about your qualifications, and then you wonder how somebody else got a job. You're like, you got to be kidding me.
At dollars that make your head spin.
Right.
Yeah.
The number 2 is saying no to yourself, which leads into the one that John talked about by aiming too low. And it says, because you feel that you lack the qualifications that a job description might ask for, you may pass by an opportunity that would certainly be good for you. And it says, we really need to understand that job search is like war, and there really are no rules. And they said you should really look at it as you have to go in, you have to have the confidence in yourself to say, I could do this job, despite what the job description may say, that there are other qualities that I'm going to deliver for this job. And I laughed at this. It said, this is often why psychopaths and liars sometimes get the best jobs. They understand manipulation.
I was gonna ask you this precise. You nailed it.
Yeah, so it's that continued lack of confidence that sometimes
Where a psychopath or a
makes you say no to
liar
yourself.
has a lot of confidence.
I can do it. Oh, I can do it all.
I got 1.2 million in sales waiting to happen.
Right. It's like that. Well, we won't get into that story due to time, but so what was number 3?
This one I put a big question mark next to. Not understanding the modern job search ecosystem and process. The process of the job search is no longer, look on the web for listings, apply to jobs that you like, wait for feedback, go interview. The new process is create your marketing documents, which is your resume and anything else you might need.
And customize them, right? I mean, that's the big thing.
That's the customization. Master LinkedIn networking. That's a whole other show by itself, right? Leverage the 4 hiring entities mentioned above and utilize the volume of interviews to your advantage and negotiate throughout. I think when I read something like leverage the volume of interviews, that's implying that you're having a lot of interviews.
A lot of success.
Now, I would say that if you looked at this and you're going to a company for 3 or 4 interviews, perhaps that's leveraging the volume of interviews because now you're moving into the organization and you're confident. But this thing about understanding the new job system, me and Tim say this a lot. It comes down to who you know.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about who you know in the company per se, but a lot of people are more than happy to lend a hand in guiding you towards something if they know you're available and they know you're looking. It doesn't mean they're going to be the people that get you the job, but they could say, I have a friend who's looking for a person just like you, and they might lead into it. And as Tim said, customizing resumes and cover letters is key now because it's all keyword search, right?
Or if you're changing careers or you're staying within the same skill set, but maybe a different career, where LinkedIn, I think, in this networking piece comes in is what you and I have also advocated many times is the informational interview. Talk to somebody in that field that you might know or can get introduced to through networking or through LinkedIn. You're not going there looking for a job, but you're going there looking for some sort of mentorship, which may then lead to, hey, you know what, I think I know somebody you should talk to that might be able to help you. And I think people don't utilize that enough. I know I don't do that either.
In about 3 weeks, I'm going out to Burbank for my graduation.
You go to the Tonight Show?
Guests of the Tonight Show stay at the Holiday Inn in downtown Burbank. No, I'm going to Burbank for my animation school graduation. They do it once a year, so all the classes, if you graduated in 2017, you go to this. But it's also attached to a big thing called CTN, which is a big illustrator animator job fair. Recruiters are there from all the studios. And I thought about exactly what you just said. I thought, Blue Sky Studio is going to be there. They're located in Westchester County. I'm not looking to be a full-time animator right now. We're doing our stuff. You and I have tons of things we're doing. But I'd be curious to know what you could do around that. And that's where the informational interview comes in. Because you're totally, hey, I'm not looking for that job, but I'm just curious what maybe I could.
Or you could be a liaison with client versus animator.
Oh yeah, we'd love to have you up. You know how to talk.
Yeah. Number 4 is becoming a jack of all trades. I question this one a little bit because I always thought the more you know, the better. And John being an entrepreneur and having started, as he said, 3 different agencies, actually is a jack of all trades because he has to be. So they said, though, in a corporate environment, this is seriously limiting because your market value is more about being a specialist versus a generalist. They said companies no longer value soldiers willing to do anything for pay. They want professionals, experts, and true masters in an industry or within the vertical of the job. I wasn't so sure about that one. I thought a well-rounded person. I don't necessarily would call a jack of all trades, but someone who's well-rounded, whether you have a sales background or an operational background. Yeah. We saw that with Kim on the phone. We saw that with our business birthday, Tim Cook. I would say they're both probably jacks of all trades.
I look at this and you nailed it, Tim. You nailed it because I wrote down here transit from small business to corporate environment would be a jarring thing for some people because in small business land you're valued as a jack of all trades on some levels. I took it a step further mentally and I decided though agility at problem solving. Being a good problem solver doesn't necessarily mean you're a jack of all trades, but being able to look at something and say, I think that might be the path forward.
I've had the experience and the maturity to know how that may have been handled or how you saw that handled in the past.
Now, this last one,
the 5th one,
as having no financial plan or power. This surprised me because I sat across from a friend of mine, a younger friend, who we were having a mentor type conversation, and he was talking about his career path in terms of equity in a company, payment, stock. Like it was literally this
chasing the dollar.
It was this roadmap of how I'm going to get what I need out of these jobs while I'm enjoying the job. But I had never thought about it this way. But it is that way, right? You're putting a roof over your head and food on the table. So making money is one of the reasons why you're working, right? It's not like you're there to just have fun.
Right, but they also said to make sure that it doesn't crimp your style. In that they said this is how corruption and things start, where you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and if the littlest hiccup happens, you get laid off.
What did they say? Think Wolf of Wall Street, Enron, Bernie Madoff.
But if you get laid off or your agency loses an account, you're going to be on the street looking for work. And if you are they said we make bad choices every year in our finances. Yeah. So if you're that cash strapped, you need to make sure that you have some sort of financial plan in order. I think this is more of a long-term goal. I'm not so sure this is a career mistake, more so than it is just a personal and a family decision, which I guess, though, as much time as we spend at work, it probably does fall under career. But that one to me, I thought might have been a little bit of a stretch. I don't know if you.
Yeah. Well, did you read her last paragraph?
Yeah. Why don't you share that with the group?
And here's what the she said: take what people from an older generation say with a massive grain of salt.
I snarled my lip at that.
I did too. I curled mine up and it like the shark from Deep Discount. If I listened to my old school Chinese immigrant parents on what to do in my career, I would not have retired from corporate life at age 28. That's for sure.
You would have retired.
Oh, she said I would. No, she said I would not have retired from corporate life at age 28. I don't know what that. See, I read this. I'm like, okay, you're massive grains of salt. The older, you know what? I'm going to refute what she says, and I'm going to say the following: listen to what older generation has to say because they've seen the wheel spin around about 4 times, and they've seen the same games, the same crap. They're going to be a little more, yeah.
What did we learn in our senior year with Emil Elgis at Pomperaug High School? The more things change,
the more they
stay.
And boy, you kid me there. That is a true.
You might have a little flip device and a little screen and all this other stuff.
Click, but you're still doing stuff. Hey, all right. We want to thank everybody for making time for us today. If you tuned in live on Facebook and YouTube, thank you for that. If you're listening to us time shifted on the audio feed or you're watching on the video, by all means, drop any comments or suggestions you have to letters@focusgroupradio.com. Our survey is open until the end of the week.
Monday, probably.
Until Monday. If you want to take the survey, send the letters FG to the number 25827. All it does is send you back a link to the survey itself at SurveyMonkey. Big thanks to Deep Discount site-wide sale. We looked at a book, some CDs, and a movie called Home for the Holidays, which is now on my list because if you rank that as a holiday treat,
you're going to like it. You're going to see yourself in it.
Big thank you to Volkswagen Group of America. The Tiguan, the 2018 Tiguan, is clearly the new big seller, right?
They gave one away on the Wheel of Fortune the other night.
They did not.
Same color. I think it was the one from Mountain Eagle.
They call that their hero color. Yeah. You know, the car companies, when they do
color as that book.
Yeah, when they do photography and video, they choose one color, and it's red. This for the Tiguan, right? It's a hero
orangish red.
So thank you. And what do we say? We say, don't text and drive, arrive alive. I tried to be less hesitant, Garrett.
Don't text and drive,
arrive alive. And see, Garrett would do it with more
gusto. Maybe that's going to be his new line.
We need to have, Garrett, do you want to do the don't text and drive alive?
No, you guys could have it.
All right, be safe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.